What's up, everybody? If you're just jumping in, I just wanted to take a moment on a Sunday afternoon to talk a little bit about bunting and hitting development because it seems that we've got this big argument going around the hitting community: pro bunt on one side, anti bunt on the other side. And there really doesn't have to be an argument on one side or the other. I think the biggest problem that we have is there's a lot of misconceptions related to the topic. The reason that we have a lot of these misconceptions is because everybody is talking about it from different perspectives. Like youth baseball and softball is not nearly the same environment as varsity baseball or softball at the high school level, or even college baseball and softball, and it's especially not the same environment as professional baseball and softball. So I just wanted to kind of talk about a couple of different topics related to this issue, and give you my viewpoints, because sometimes you can't get it all across in just a certain amount of characters on a social media post. But some advice that I would give is, first of all, you don't have to be pro bunt or anti bunt. Bunting is a skill that is useful in the game of baseball and softball, but we need to know when it's useful and how to apply it to develop our team's ability to score runs without hindering our ability to develop hitters as they're growing up through the game. So let's start with youth sports. Playing youth sports is very different than playing collegiately or professionally. And what I mean by that is, typically my problem with bunting in youth baseball or youth softball. Let's start with youth baseball, for example. When the field is small, you have a variety of playing skills. At 10U level, you got 9 and 10-year-old kids, and then you got your 11Us, your 12Us. But they're playing on a small field. You got short bases, and you have a variety of prerequisite skills that are out there competing on the field. So sometimes you're playing against a team and they're fundamentally sound and they can field ground balls and throw pretty accurately to first base. And sometimes you play your fair share of teams where they don't field ground balls very well and they don't throw accurately to first base at all. And a lot of things that I see in youth baseball when it comes to bunting is most of these games have time limits. So the kids who are being told to bunt a lot are the kids who bat at the bottom of the order, and they might only get one plate appearance in game one, and they're told to bunt. And then they might only get one plate appearance in game two, and they're told to bunt again. And maybe game 3 and 4 on the next day when they play, they get 1 or 2 more plate appearances in each game, and they get to swing in one of them. But over the course of the weekend, they got to swing maybe 2 times out of 5 or 6 plate appearances, and they bunted most of the rest of them. I don't think that helps that kid in the longevity of his or her development. So what I mean by that is, why do youth coaches make 10-year-old kids bunt? Because the other 10-year-old kid who's playing shortstop or third base or playing first base, they can't run and make a play fielding it with one hand and throwing with one leg on the run with the other hand and accurately throw it to first base. So in simple terms, why do youth coaches make 9, 10, 11, and 12-year-old kids bunt? It's because the other 9, 10, 11, and 12-year-old kids aren't fundamentally sound and athletic enough to make on-the-run athletic plays and actually execute the play and get an out. So we take little kids who are supposed to be learning the game, and they're supposed to be developing their skills. And the main skills they need to develop are: can you catch it? Can you throw it? Can you run the bases? Can you hit the ball? If you can catch and you can throw, you can run the bases, and you can hit the ball, you got a pretty good shot at getting in the lineup and playing a significant amount of time when you have to make your middle school team or when you have to make your high school team. But when we're bunting just because the other teams can't play good defense at those younger ages, we really hinder the long-term development of the actual hitter and the athlete. And who bunts at the youth level? Like, which kids bunt? the kids who bat at the bottom of the order and can't hit that well. And then how does that help them when they have to make their middle school team? Because the field gets bigger now and the bat gets heavier. So I think it's really important. If I was coaching youth sports, I would never make any of my kids bunt at any of those games that we play on the small field, because it doesn't matter if they can do it right now. What matters is, can they swing at good pitches? Like, are they learning an approach at the plate? Are they learning how to hunt the fastball early in the count? Are they learning how to swing at good pitches? Are they learning how to be on time? Are they learning how to be athletes in the box and control adversity? Like, are they learning how to handle when the umpire doesn't necessarily make a good call that goes their way? When, it's an obvious ball, but it gets called as a strike. So if I was coaching youth sports, I would be focusing on those things. Like, can I teach this kid how to compete in the box and really have a competitive mindset that's going to go with him or go with her as they get to middle school and as they get to high school? And hopefully, if they want to play collegiately, like, they have that sense of confidence in the box where they can compete. Versus if I spend time on the small field, just like, don't waste their ABs and their opportunity to get a game rep just by making them bunt the ball, because it's not as beneficial for the long term and the longevity of their career. Now, let's flip it away from youth sports and let's go talk about, like, you're playing high school varsity baseball or you're playing high school varsity softball. Like, you can use the bunt as a weapon when you're playing a varsity sport, because we're playing against, this is like 18U. High school baseball and softball is like 18U sports. So we can use bunting as a weapon to bunt for hits. Bunting one down the third baseline, bunting one down the first baseline, and trying to beat it out for a hit. Like, that's an offensive weapon. If we're talking about college baseball or college softball, placing a good bunt down the line is a good offensive weapon that you can use to score runs. So there's nothing wrong with that. If you can score runs, you give yourself a chance to win the game. Now, that's completely different than comparing youth sports. Like, we're not talking about, NCAA baseball where, their hitter strategically places a bunt down the line and he beats it out at first. Like, that's an offensive skill that's executed, yes. But we don't need to waste time with a kid that's 10 years old playing on a small field. And ultimately, we're just making the weaker kids bunt and we're not given an opportunity to hit. Like I said earlier, I would rather spend all of my time as a youth coach teaching these kids the skills that are going to give them the best chance to make their middle school team, to make their high school team when the field gets bigger and the bats get heavier. Because at the end of the day, this is the ugly truth of it. When the field gets bigger and the bat gets heavier, if you can't hit the ball on a line to get it out of the infield, your chances of playing are very limited compared to the other kid the same age as you who can hit a line drive and get it out of the infield. And that's just the bottom line of it. But we have some youth coaches who also coach high school baseball. And if you ask them, if you take your 12U team out there, which kids are you bunting during the 12U game? You're probably making the kid bunt in the 12U game who you would end up cutting when he tried out as a ninth grader if his hitting didn't get any better because he can't hit a line drive over the infield. That's a simple skill that I think we need to teach all kids. Like, I work with all age groups of hitters, but I can't tell you how many times I'm getting high school kids who are underdeveloped physically and underdeveloped with just bat speed, which is their engine to hit the ball, and they're underdeveloped with their ability to have a plan and approach in the box. Like, they are so reactive in the box. They're scared to strike out. They don't know how to have a good approach in the box to attack the pitcher versus being reactive. If we teach those things at 10 and 11 and 12 years old, like, it's as simple as hunting the fastball in the first 3 pitches, because that's what you're going to get thrown most of the time. You're either hitting with 2 strikes or you're not hitting with 2 strikes. Like, how do we handle those situations? What type of mindset do we have in the box? How do we attack those pitchers? And how do we have a presence? And how do we have good body language in the box as a hitter? because things aren't always going to go our way. How do we handle the failures and the successes of being a hitter as a kid, so that when the pressure is even more when we get a little bit older and our wins and losses matter, how do we handle those situations? Now, going into another topic like sacrifice bunting in general, I don't think sacrifice bunting is a good idea, period. And here's what I mean by that. A sacrifice bunt is when a hitter typically shows early. They tell, everybody in the ballpark knows they're going to bunt. And a lot of times it's a runner on first base, nobody out, and the guy squares around early, and he's just laying the ball on the ground, giving himself up to move a runner to second base. And then the defense gets the out. So now we're one out, second base. Another situation, first and second, nobody out. We'll square around the bunt. We square so early that we're telling everybody, yeah, we're bunting, we're sacrificing. I'm giving myself up as a hitter so you can move to second and third, and we'll have one out. I think it's a much better idea to not give away outs. Like, keep your outs. And if you need to bunt in those situations, run all of your bunts as a safety squeeze. So here's what I mean by that. You take a typical safety squeeze as a runner on third, and your hitter squares around later in the pitcher's delivery so that the defense doesn't know you're going to bunt, really. The pitcher doesn't really know you're going to bunt. They're so far into their delivery, they're going to throw the ball wherever they're going to throw it. So you square around as a hitter with enough time to see a good pitch and place it down away from the pitcher's mound, and then you run. Safety bunts catch the defense off guard because you didn't tell everybody by showing early, hey, I'm going to bunt. Like, that safety squeeze play can be applied at first base, second base, or third base. If you need to move some runners, but you want to do it without giving away an out, run safety squeezes, because that allows the hitter to show late enough where they can still get set up and place the ball down away from the pitcher's mound and have a pretty good shot of reaching first base safely. You move your runners, you cause the defense to have to make a play, and you have a pretty good chance of catching them off guard and reaching first base safely. And if you don't reach first base safely, you still move your runners, but you didn't just simply give away an out with just a plain old dead sacrifice bunt. And if you don't think that works, think about all the times you've seen hitters do a swinging bunt where the hitter swung and they just kind of mishit the ball on top, and it ended up rolling right between the pitcher's mound and the foul line, and nobody was able to make a play. If your hitter has enough time to completely get a swing off and mishit the ball, and it just goes in the right spot, and nobody can make a play to get them out at first base, if they can swing and bunt safely, they can definitely lay down a safety squeeze bunt and have a pretty good chance of catching the defense off guard and making it to first base. So placement is always going to take priority over running out of the box. Like, I see it all the time. The drag bunt or the push bunt where the hitter shows late and they're trying to run out of the box as they bunt, and they miss it or they foul it, and it's just a wasted strike. And eventually they end up hitting in an 0-2 count. The bunt gets called off, and the at-bat doesn't have a lot of positive productivity in it. Oftentimes, those missed drag bunts or those missed push bunts that they fouled or missed completely, they turn into 0-2 and 1-2 counts, and the hitter ends up striking out or getting out inevitably anyway. So that's another thing to think about. And then think about, like, what hitters are going to make the middle school team? What hitters are going to make the high school team? How can we develop our youth so we can prepare them for that? Like, don't use bunting to take advantage of the other team's inability to play defense. Don't use bunting to make your weak hitters tap the ball on the ground. Teach those youth players how to hit so they have a pretty good chance of making their teams when they have to try out, when they're not paying for playing time. And that's another topic that I want to go into. Like, travel baseball and softball, you pay for your time on the field. Like, you're paying a fee to be in the lineup. And it's a big difference when you're trying to play for your high school team or you're trying to play for your middle school team. Like, you're not paying for that spot in the lineup. You're not paying for those ABs. You're not paying for those plate appearances anymore. So I think it's really important that if you are playing for a travel baseball team and you're paying money, because that stuff's not free. If you're paying money, your travel baseball or your travel softball team should be allowing you to learn how to hit during the games, and they should be allowing you to learn how to hit in the training and in the development that they are providing for you at their practices. Like, that's their job. That's why you're paying the travel baseball organization or you're paying the travel softball organization. It's to help you develop the skills that you need to compete at a high level. And the bottom line is, if you can hit, people will find opportunities for you to be in the lineup. And the players who can't really hit, like, you get your ABs because you paid for them in travel ball. But if you don't have the opportunity to learn how to hit in those travel ball games and you're being forced to bunt all the time, your playing time is going to end up being limited when you're trying to play for your high school team or you're trying to play for your middle school team, and you're no longer paying for that spot in the lineup. So that's why, for me, if I was coaching youth baseball, I'd never make a kid bunt on the small field because I want you to learn how to be a hitter. I can teach you how to bunt when you get to the big field, and that can be a weapon. But your main weapon is the ability to beat the pitcher that's trying to get you out, because that's the battle you have to face as a hitter for the rest of your career. No matter what level you're playing, the pitcher's trying to beat you, and you're trying to beat the pitcher. The last topic that I want to touch on is, people are saying if you can't hit, practicing bunting will make you a good hitter. And I think that is completely far from the truth, because I see it all the time. If practicing bunting made hitters good, then how come the 11U kid who is hitting ninth and has to bunt every time he comes up, how come he's not batting third or fourth? Because he practices bunting all the time. Why isn't he a better hitter? Because they're two totally different tasks. The only thing bunting has in a relationship to actually hitting is putting the bat where the ball is. But it's such a different task. Like, if I'm squaring around to bunt, I'm just standing here, like, in this position, and I'm trying to match the bat with the ball. There's not really all the elements of timing and the movements that go into actually hitting a moving ball are almost completely removed in that. Because when I'm squared around like this, I'm not loading, I'm not striding. I don't have to time my swing movements with the ball that's being delivered to me from the pitcher, and I don't have to try to coordinate my bat to ball skills with my timing of my swing movements to hit the fastball or hit the changeup or hit the breaking ball or whatever the case may be. So if practicing bunting made people good hitters, then all of your weaker hitters wouldn't be the weak hitters, because you make them bunt all the time anyway. So why can't they hit? If you want to be a good hitter, you've simply got to practice the hitting aspect of it. And if you can have good swing decisions, you can move well in the batter's box, you will have a better chance of learning timing and learning how to have an approach at the plate. Like, those things make people hit on game day. It's the confidence, it's the plan, it's the approach, it's making good swing decisions, it's the ability to improve your contact quality. And on all of these things happen because you have to develop good bat speed to be able to swing the bat fast enough to compete. You have to make good swing decisions and be able to identify, good pitches to hit versus not good pitches to hit. And you have to just develop your ability to put the bat on the ball by practicing hitting. So don't limit a youth kid's development by taking advantage of another youth kid's inability to play good defense and making your weak hitter bunt all the time. What really got me on this topic is this one. This is a true story, and I don't understand this. Like, travel softball game, team is winning 10-0, and the time limit is up. It's the last inning of the game. This girl's batting at the bottom of the order because she's typically not a good hitter. She's already bunted once in the game. You're up 10-0. It's travel softball. She's paying money for these at bats, and you make her bunt again when you're up 10-0 in the last inning of the game. Why? Why'd you make the girl bunt twice? let her learn how to hit because she's got to go back to her high school and she's got to compete for her high school and try to earn a spot in the lineup. If you're not allowing her to learn how to hit in travel softball because you're putting her in a 9 hole or you're putting her in the 8 or the 10 or whatever it is, and every time she comes up, you're making her bunt when you're up 10-0. Like, what message are you sending that girl? You're not good enough to swing away when we're up 10-0 and you're paying me for playing time. Like, I don't think that's it. Like, that's not it at all. Like, teach this girl how to hit. Let her swing away during the at bat. And if she fails, but it could be related to, hey, your timing was off, or you're just making bad swing decisions. Like, let's help this girl get better so she can learn to hit. Because when she stops paying for the ABs and travel ball, her at bats are not going to be there when she has to compete for them on her high school team. Or when her high school career is over with, she's not going to have an opportunity to get any more at bats because no college is going to take her because she can't hit. If you have any questions or you have any comments about the things that I talked about, feel free to shoot me a message or shoot me a DM. But I just had to get some things off my chest. I hope this helps. As always, I'll see you guys on the diamond.